I was this close to nailing how this series is going to go. And then the old Boston Celtics showed up and some bad habits burned them real bad. I'll get into it right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. Thank you for making the show part of your daily routine, even on a day like this. It's a Monday through Friday podcast with bonus coverage on game days where I might not normally record, like Friday night's game 6 in Milwaukee, which could be the end of the series in Milwaukee for the Milwaukee Bucks after a 110-107 win over the Boston Celtics in Game 5 in Boston. So I'll talk about that right now. I'm John Karalis. I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I've written a book called The Boston Celtics All-Time All-Stars. I'm also one of the media voters for the 75th anniversary team. I want to thank you for making this show your first listen every day. I want to thank you for subscribing. It's free. It's available everywhere podcasts exist. Show is on YouTube. You can watch the show on YouTube if you are so inclined. Celtics, tough time for the old Celtics to show up in this one. I'll get into what's ahead for Boston coming up in the third segment. I'll get into some of the more individual performances in the second segment, but let's just dive into what happened here. Let's just talk through it. Okay. Because like I said in the intro, I thought I had this thing pegged. I was feeling really good. 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. I was feeling really, really good because the Celtics had built a lead of 14 points and the story was following the script. Milwaukee comes out with a big punch. Boston answers. The second quarter was awesome for the most part. You had the old Celtics forcing turnovers. They had a stretch of 5 turnovers in 7 possessions that really, it's the best defense that they've played this entire series as far as like best complete like defense, get out into transition, run, and all of that stuff. Best we've seen them play. And then in the third quarter, Milwaukee comes out, throws their punch again, beginning of each half. I said, okay, here we go. Withstand the beginning of each half. They will fade in at the end of each half. That's what they do. They're fading because they don't have enough. They don't have enough gas in the tank. And once Peyton Pritchard got that ball, that backdoor cut, that spin, fade away in the lane, I was like, oh, man, if Peyton Pritchard is getting that shot, if that stuff is starting to fall, then this is it. This is over. This is a wrap. And then things changed. And this is where I have a problem with this Celtics team. And we've kind of had this problem throughout the course of the year, throughout the past 2 years. They when they are at their worst, when the bad habits come in, they don't know how to handle success. When they feel like they've got things in the bag, they have generally been like, okay, we're going to relax. And Milwaukee did some stuff. They started switching and all of that, but Boston was very, very happy to say, okay, no problem. We'll take some jumpers. With 8 minutes to go, the Celtics had 42 points in the paint with 8 minutes to go. And they only scored 2 more points in the paint after that. They started settling for jumpers. I'm looking at 3 attempts in the paint and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 outside of the paint, just jumpers. And then a couple that were in the paint that were right at the dotted line, somewhere in that area that just. So the Celtics started to slack a little bit, slow the game down. Instead of finishing the game, they started to slow the game down. Milwaukee, on the other hand, was working. They were working hard. And I know the narrative is going to be that Milwaukee in the fourth quarter, Giannis was Giannis, and they came in and they just took this game, and they did. But Milwaukee did a lot in this fourth quarter to lose this game. Boston did more to lose this game. It's just that Milwaukee outworked the Celtics, which is worse. It's actually worse. I would have rather have seen the Milwaukee Bucks just show up, have Giannis shut me up, have Drew Holiday shut me up, Bobby Portis shut me up by putting their foot on the gas and blowing the Celtics out in the fourth quarter by simply out-talenting, making shots, running great offense, and have them go, hey, John, you think we're running out of gas? Suck on that, buddy. They kind of did that, but by just hitting the offensive rebounds. 7 offensive rebounds in the stretch in the fourth quarter. 17 overall in the game. But the fourth quarter, the Bucks did everything they could to lose this game. Look, they went into the penalty with 6 minutes and 48 seconds left. Boston was up 6, and in the penalty, Milwaukee's in the penalty with 6:48 to go. They drew the foul. Jaylen Brown drew the foul. He split a couple of free throws. So now we're at 6:48 to go. All the Celtics need to do is just be aggressive. Just drive. Just keep doing what you're doing. Drive, kick, drive, kick. Force them to reach. Force them to try to make a play. You're in the penalty. Just win the game at the free throw line. Nope. 6:48. Milwaukee goes into the penalty. Boston doesn't take another free throw until 30 seconds left in the game when Jayson Tatum gets fouled by Bobby Portis. That's inexcusable. That's inexcusable. Milwaukee handed Boston this gift. Go win the game. We're fouling too much. Just go hit your free throws and cruise to a win. You don't really have to do that much. Just cruise to a win by taking a bunch of free throws and put the pressure on them. But nope. Boston decided not to be aggressive in the penalty. Milwaukee shot 7 of 17 in the fourth quarter. They didn't go get this game. They didn't go out there and say, all right, we're just gonna start. It's gonna be an avalanche. Like the Celtics went and got that game in Milwaukee, game 4. Milwaukee didn't go get this game. They shot 7 of 17. They shot 41% in the fourth quarter, but they outworked Boston. And that's what a champion does. That's what a championship team does. You find a way to win. You grind this game out. Okay, so 7 of 17, missed a ton of shots, but 7 offensive rebounds. That gives them an opportunity to take a few more shots. And when you win by 3, the extra shots that you get, that's the difference. Just go get that rebound, get an extra shot up. They outworked Boston. They just outworked Boston. And that's inexcusable. It's very 2021 Boston Celtics. It's not 2022 Boston Celtics to start to get so passive and to do the things that all of the things that they couldn't or that they had gotten away from, right? You play hard, but they didn't play hard down the stretch. They didn't work the ball around. They didn't pass. They didn't drive and kick. They shrunk in the moment. They did everything wrong. And then to me, this is where the basketball gods are at work. Now, I actually don't believe in like external forces like this, but it's a way of saying that your hard work gets rewarded. The lucky bounces, the lucky little plays. When we talk about the basketball gods, that just means like the hard work is rewarded. And Milwaukee was not better than the Boston Celtics in the fourth quarter. They worked harder than the Celtics in the fourth quarter, and they were rewarded by a fluky little free throw rebound where Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown both went for it. No one between them. This, after everything that they had gone wrong, they had an opportunity to just get this rebound, 14 seconds on the clock, just grab it, get fouled, go up 3. Now, who knows what would have happened? But the pressure's on there, and you've got a defense that you make one more stop, just one more stop, and it's a 3-point game. So an offensive rebound, they have to kick it back out. It's not just a tip in. You can now start to win this free throw battle with 14 seconds left. Just grab the rebound. Just grab it. But the basketball gods reward the hard work, and they don't reward a team that says we're going to try to coast over the last 8 minutes of a playoff game, a pivotal playoff game. This is game 5. You're at home. Ball bounces off Jaylen, bounces off Marcus. Neither guys communicate. No one saying same team. It just bounces off both their hands, and there's Bobby Portis to put it back in. And all of a sudden, Milwaukee's up 1. The final play was a jumbled mess. I'll talk about that when I come back. I'll talk about the final play and then some of the other stuff when I come back. First, let's talk about BetOnline. I know the odds have shifted now for the Boston Celtics. The odds are against them. I've been saying Celtics in 6, could be Celtics in 7. I'll talk about that also, but it's very likely now that Milwaukee's going to win this series. The odds have changed, so you can see how they've changed over at BetOnline. You can find the latest odds, news, developments this year, all your playoff stuff, Major League Baseball, the fights. You've got next season's NFL futures. You've got live in-game betting. You've got all kinds of things, esports that you can bet on at BetOnline. So head on over to the website, use your mobile device, learn about the trends in action. BetOnline is where the game starts. Please gamble responsibly. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Why not make Locked On NBA Big Board your second listen every day? Get ready for the NBA draft. I know the Celtics don't have a pick, but people love the draft, and maybe you want to be on top of everything because you never know. You never know how things are going to go. Maybe Boston can trade into it. Maybe who knows what's going to happen. I doubt it, but if you want to be on top of the draft, Locked On NBA Big Board, hosted by Rafael Barlow, who is a very intensely hardworking guy out there scouting people in person, is dedicated to this stuff. So listen to Locked On NBA Big Board and subscribe to his NBA Big Board newsletter. It's great stuff, and check it out wherever you get your podcasts. So the final play, the final half-court set, I sat there after the game, spending a lot of time with Jay King, formerly of this podcast, now currently on a different podcast that I don't recommend listening to at all. We started talking about what happened in that final play, and Ime Udoka and Marcus Smart, they were basically saying that it was designed for Jayson Tatum. It looked like from the sidelines, Ime was just yelling, like Al Horford was late getting over to a screen, which after everything that Al Horford has done positive, including that big putback dunk that I thought, that's going to be the capital. When he had that putback dunk, it was like, where the hell did he come from? How did he get up that high? It was an awesome play. And I thought that was going to be it. I thought that was going to be it. And then Giannis Antetokounmpo hits a 3-pointer. Like, you talk about the basketball gods rewarding the team that's working harder. You freaking get Giannis Antetokounmpo a 3 and that free throw rebound to Bobby Portis. That's like too much. But to have Al Horford be the guy that kind of botched the timing on that last play, I think Marcus Smart was supposed to come in off a Jaylen Brown pick. That didn't get set. The pick from Horford to Tatum didn't get set. And then Smart gets the ball and tries to drive baseline. And this is very easy for me to say. And to be fair to all basketball players in that moment, it's tough, right? You see a lane, you think I got Pat Connaughton on me. I can drive by him. With 11 seconds left and no timeouts, you figure, okay, we've got to make a play. Now, the play's botched. He gets the ball. My only criticism of Smart really in that moment is, that Milwaukee is going to swarm you at the basket. No matter what, no matter who you see, where you see guys, whatever. Whoever has the ball and is attacking the basket in that moment, it's a 1-point game. Milwaukee protects the rim. You have to know that even though you've shaken Pat Connaughton free, you have to be aware that somebody somewhere is coming after you, and that throw a fake, do something, misdirection, don't just go up. I'm not upset that Marcus Smart thought about saying, hey, look, I'm going to make a play. I'm not upset about that. I feel like Marcus in the last minute or 45 seconds or so just started doing things a little too fast. And in that moment, needed to understand. I know this kind of might fall under the guise of like seeing ghosts and stuff, but you do have to know, I got one guy on me. I'm at the rim. It's the Milwaukee Bucks. Someone else is coming. What do I got? And in his head, 11, 10, 9. It's a 1-point game. You've got Tatum on the floor. You got Jaylen Brown on the floor. If he either up faked and he would have seen somebody, or if he just pulled it back out real quick and he would have found Jaylen actually did cut down the middle, and with Smart driving baseline coming down the middle, you're open for a pass. There was a pass to be made to Jaylen Brown there. But I think Marcus was just moving too fast and kind of lost sight of what happened. Kind of like at the end, after the Connaughton free throws, and again, now you're at 5 seconds. It's tough, but he's the point guard. He needed to see Jayson Tatum up on the right-hand side. He needed to see that. And so that's the final couple of plays. I thought Jaylen played great. Jaylen had 16 points in the third quarter. He was upset after the game that he wanted some more time out there. You can second guess Ime and say, well, you should have maybe kept Jaylen in to start the fourth quarter. Let's just put this team away. Now, in hindsight, you can say that, but in the moment, he probably thought, hey, look, we're up. And look, in the first 2 minutes of the fourth quarter, the Celtics extended the lead. So we could look back on it now and say, well, why didn't you put Jaylen in to say, hey, let's finish this thing off? But at the same point, 2 minutes into the quarter, it was your biggest lead of the game, 14 points. So it was working out. And even a couple of minutes later, you say, okay, we gave up a 3. All right, we'll give up another 3. That's not great. Let's get Jaylen in. By the time Jaylen comes in and play resumes and all that. So we sat for a few minutes, 4 minutes at the top of the fourth quarter. I think that's, that was fine. I'm not going to get too worked up about that. I thought Tatum hit some big shots in the fourth quarter, but he settled a lot and he missed some box outs. Ultimately in the fourth quarter, it just came down to giving up those 7 offensive rebounds, and a couple of them led to 3-pointers, and one led to free throws, and the obviously the one that led to the layup at the end. You just got to work harder. Quickly, some of the other individual performances. Al Horford, I thought was really good. Not obviously the same that he has been, but 8 points. He took 2 threes and missed those. So he was kind of like back to normal Al there. I thought Smart had been having a good game up until what I had said. Derek White had a good game. Daniel Tice only played 11 and a half minutes, but he did a great job just finding space, finding himself some open space to get the dump offs and score inside. Kind of what we wanted Robert Williams to do. Robert Williams, by the way, missed the game. Obviously, if you watched the game, you knew this. Hopefully he's available for game 6, and hopefully he's kind of like watching. One of the things that I tweeted out was, I hope Rob watches the film of how Al Horford is working the baseline when guys drive. Like, he does a great job of relocating on the baseline based on when guys are driving rather than standing there. So I thought Horford did a good job of that. Tice did a good job of that. When Rob comes back, he needs to do a good job of that. Derek White was really good. It kind of sucks that you got these ancillary Derek White good game, Daniel Tice good game, and you couldn't capitalize on it. Grant Williams has disappeared in this series after first couple of days, first couple of games that were awesome. Gave him a ton of praise and then kind of fell off. So a -11 on the night for Grant Williams. Team worst. Not great. He needs to get back on track if the Celtics are going to have a chance in this. They do think that they have a chance in this. And I'll talk about that. What chance do they really have? I'll talk about that when I come back here next. First, let's talk about Rock Auto. There's a ton of cars out there, and every car has 10 different makes and 10 different trims, and it's impossible for these chain stores to have everything that your car needs, right? You walk in, whatever is there. You're going to take it or you're going to leave it, right? It's you don't have many choices. And then they'll say, well, we can order it for you. Well, you can order it yourself already at Rock Auto. You would have saved yourself the trip to burning gas. Gas costs $1 million now. Don't waste the gas going to these chain stores when you can just do this at home. Go to rockauto.com, a family business that's been helping do-it-yourselfers fix their cars for 20 years. The prices are reliably low for everybody. Don't spend 30 to 50 to even 100% more for the same parts at a chain store or a dealership. Whatever you need, however complicated or simple it is, it's there. I don't know a ton about cars. I just admit that. I don't know a ton. But I do know that some people that are listening do and need things for those cars. Rock Auto is going to save you a bunch of money, but I can get myself tail lamps or motor oil or new carpet or whatever it is at rockauto.com. So head on over there, cruise through a very easy to navigate and expansive catalog for everything, car, truck, motorcycle, all of that. When you do buy something, I feel like you would, if you needed something and you go and you checked it out, make sure you write Locked On in there. How did you hear about us box? Locked On. You can say Locked On Celtics or just Locked On. It's fine. That's how they know we sent you. That's the only way they know we sent you. It's an amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. After the game, the Boston Celtics seemed kind of oddly confident. I shouldn't say oddly confident. They should be confident. They played well in long stretches of this series. And in this game, they played well for most of it. I thought that the game kind of went, like I said, it kind of went according to script until the last 8 minutes of the game or so. But Ime, the way he was talking, it almost felt like it was, January. Basically we'll move on. We missed the golden opportunity, but it's just going to make it sweeter, he said, for, whenever, when we do get back into this, which, okay, sure. Okay. That's positive talk from Ime. Marcus Smart came out kind of towing the same positive line, basically saying, look, this sucks. We are really upset. We were really upset heading into the locker room, but now we're here. Now I'm in front of you guys. We got to get on a plane tomorrow, and all we can do is move on. And Jayson Tatum said the same thing. By the time Tatum came out, he was third. I actually asked the questions like, you guys are kind of like really upbeat for having blown a 14-point fourth quarter lead in game 5 of the conference semifinals. And he says, like, if I come up here and I am down, then the big story will be like, oh, Jayson Tatum's down and he doesn't believe in his team and the body language. And now he's probably right. I know he's right. If he came up to that podium and was just like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Yeah, well, that was tough. I don't know how we're going to recover, which is what people, I think, feel at home. If he said that, then Celtics fans, people on the outside, be like, oh my God, series is over. Now, a lot of people are saying that I saw him in my mentions and on Boston Sports Journal that are saying the series is over, but I think that's just the natural emotional reaction out of this. The Celtics are like, yeah, we basically feel like we had this game and we blew it. It's our fault. And we had game 3 and we blew it. It's our fault. And I'm like, all right, again, they're not wrong. They're not wrong. What happened in this game? What happened in game 3? Celtics had opportunities to win and they couldn't come through. Celtics had opportunities to win this game multiple times in the fourth quarter. There was nothing schematically like, okay, so they started switching. So the Celtics could have said, oh, let's go to our switching defense offense and start like slipping screens and, just work the ball around and make, matchup hunt and attack the matchups. They could have done that. They didn't have to try to run down the clock. They didn't have to try to, Marcus Smart denies this, but there was certainly, I felt like a playing not to lose kind of feel to this game, which means just being passive and just, okay, well, how much time's left in the clock? Feels like the clock hasn't moved. Why hasn't the clock moved? The Celtics, I think, did this to themselves. They did this to themselves. And credit to Milwaukee for outworking the Celtics. And credit to Giannis Antetokounmpo for having a huge game. But again, this was perfect for me. 40 points, 3 assists. That to me, I'm fine with that game. Fine with that game from Giannis. I really am. Box out. Don't give them 7 offensive rebounds. Take away 3 of those that led to points, and you win this game. You're fine. Run the offense on the other end on top of that. Play a fourth quarter like you're supposed to play, and the Celtics win this going away. And my prediction would have actually come true if they had just done what they were supposed to do. I wasn't banking on the old Celtics showing up. That's my fault. I probably should have said, hey, there's a possibility with this. When I declared this series was over, I didn't take into account the possibility of the old Celtics, the 2021 Celtics coming in and soiling themselves in the fourth quarter. I thought this was the 2022 Celtics that would come in and wear the other team down and kind of run away with it. To their credit, Milwaukee did not wear down. You didn't see the same visible signs of fatigue. But like I said before, they missed a ton of shots. They fouled too much. They put Boston in the penalty for more than half of a quarter, and Boston just didn't take advantage of it. Just didn't. So Can Boston go and win game 6 in Milwaukee? They can. And here, this is the thing. They can. They can still win the series. Now, teams generally don't in this scenario. The odds are stacked way against them. Milwaukee is if you were to tell me, gun to my head, where are you putting your next paycheck? I have to put it on Milwaukee to win the series at this point, because statistically, this is how it goes. But however, there's, Boston, those guys up on that podium are looking at it like Milwaukee didn't do anything to come in and just take this game. We gave it away. So Boston can go into Milwaukee. We have already seen that they can win in Milwaukee. They could have won both of those games in Milwaukee. So they can go in Friday night and win that game. But it's too high variance now. It's too many things can go wrong. You got to play perfect. You can't go in there and play like you did game 3 and game 4 even. You can't do that. You got to play perfect now, because you've got now Giannis feeling like, look, he's freaking Superman. He's going to go and try to do this again. Another 40-point game. He's going to try and do it again, and he probably can. And that energy in that building is going to feed the rest of those guys. And you don't know if the pressure is going to get to Derek White and Grant Williams again and any of these other guys. You don't know what's going to happen there. Too high variance. You got no room, no margin for error. The Celtics have to, in game 6, go in from the beginning and lay the hammer down. It's the only chance that they have. There's none of this going back and forth. They have to go in and play perfectly from the beginning and impose their will and say, hey, we are the better team. We feel like we've been the better team for the last 3 games, and we lost 2 of those games, and that's our fault. Now we got to come in here and win this game. You can't mess around, because you mess around and you think, like the approach even coming into this game, you mess around, you say, okay, well, we got this fourth quarter. If we could just get to that fourth quarter close, we can pull away. We feel good about that. Can't do that in Milwaukee. Not in an elimination game. You got to be better than good. You got to be almost perfect. And then you can come back to a game 7 in Boston and feed off the crowd. But even then, game 7, anything can happen. And you're talking about the NBA champs. You're talking about Giannis, an MVP, former 2-time MVP, who was 3rd in the MVP voting this year. Celtics put themselves in this position once again. They've come out of this position before. This could be just another microcosm of this season where we say, oh, here we go. The old Celtics are back. And then they go on a little bit of a run and they go, oh, wow. Okay. This really is the new team. This is Ime's team. This can go either way now. My confidence in this team winning the series has dropped significantly. Even though they had it. Win this game. I fully believe you go into there in game 6 when Milwaukee is on the verge of being eliminated, and you win that game. I feel good about that. I still think the Celtics can win this in 7, but I also think Milwaukee could win it in 6. Milwaukee could win it in 7. It's almost like a toss-up now. But this is what the Celtics do. This is what this Celtics team has done. Put themselves in positions where you count them out, and they've come back from that before. Hard to say. I'll go through the film again. I will break down this fourth quarter. Watch for my writing on Boston Sports Journal. Come back tomorrow with a fresh podcast to get you into the weekend, and then a post-game podcast Friday, which I hope will be a celebration of a Game 6 win and not that was a fun season podcast, because I don't want to do that podcast yet. Whatever podcast it is, I hope you listen to it. I hope the people who I know this podcast is probably going to be mostly listened to by Milwaukee Bucks fans, and the comments are going to be an absolute mess. I'm prepared for whatever comments these guys, you Milwaukee Bucks fans throw at me. I was wrong about how this series was going to go. I thought I had it and I was this close, but I ended up being wrong about it. That's what happens. Sometimes you're right. Sometimes you're wrong. I was wrong. Hopefully I'm right moving forward. So subscribe if you're not subscribed. If you're still listening to this point, send me a shout out on the in the comments in the YouTube section. If you've listened throughout this whole thing and you're on YouTube and you're still listening and watching, send me a hello, send me a shout out. If you are not a subscriber, please subscribe on YouTube. If you are a subscriber, I would appreciate it if you share the podcast, tell your friends, tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network.